I'm unapologetically black. I have to take care of the tribe first. I cannot sit here and watch. This is my blood family. How you think I'm gonna be? I can't worry about nothing else. I love everybody. But right now, I gotta make moves and I gotta use my power for the advancement of black people because we last.
160 years. Yeah, you heard that right. 160. That's the prison sentence Sean Diddy Combs just got slammed with. And this isn't one of those celebrity cases that disappears after a month. But make no mistake, this wasn't about a one-time mistake or some scandal gone too far. This was about years of buildup, whispers behind closed doors, sealed lawsuits, backroom settlements, and survivor stories that were ignored for way too long. What happened in that courtroom was the final blow to a slow-burning fuse, and when it took down more than just Diddy's reputation, his legal team tried everything. They were begging for 5, maybe 10 years max. At one point, they even floated the idea of a plea deal. Word is, Diddy might have been ready to trade secrets, pull others into the light, expose the inner circle that helped keep this all hidden for so long. That didn't fly with the judge, or the jury, or the survivors, because this case wasn't just about what Diddy did. It was about how far he was willing to go to stay untouchable. The stories that came out weren't rumors anymore. So yeah, this isn't just about one man's fall. This could be the start of something bigger, something that makes the whole industry squirm. Let's start with the moment that left the courtroom in complete silence, the gavel drop heard around the world.
We got some information. We broke this story a couple hours ago. Diddy is behind bars, but he is enrolled in 2 classes in jail. A class for drugs and one for
domestic violence. These are programs that are offered by the federal government in the prison system for inmates, and he is enrolled in both of these programs. He's also, we're told, in therapy separate from those 2 programs. And all of these things that he's doing typically for one reason, to look good for the judge.
Well, it's important because sentencing comes up October 3rd.
When Judge Arun Subramanian handed down the 160-year sentence, the entire courtroom went still. But this wasn't some theatrical moment for headlines. This was real. The judge wasn't making a statement just to get attention. He was drawing a hard line. In his own words, Diddy was labeled a danger to society, and he said it straight to Diddy's face. Now, here's where it gets even more serious. The 160 years didn't come from the biggest sounding charges. He wasn't found guilty of racketeering or trafficking, but he was found guilty of 2 Mann Act violations. Alone, each one could have meant 10 years. But when you add in the enhancements, obstruction, witness intimidation, past settlements, the broader scope of what prosecutors called commercial coercion, the sentence grew. It wasn't just about legal terms, it was about impact. The judge saw someone who spent decades dodging accountability, weaponizing wealth, and manipulating silence. And this time, the system decided enough was enough. But before we get into how the sentence landed, we need to talk about the deal that almost saved him. His legal team didn't walk in expecting 160 years. Behind the scenes, they were pushing hard for a deal, 5 years, maybe 10 max. They argued that his past was complicated, that his current life didn't reflect those old accusations. They tried spinning him as someone surrounded by the wrong people, who made mistakes but didn't deserve to be buried alive by the system. And for a moment, it looked like there might be room for negotiation. Sources close to the case said his team was floating the idea of cooperation. There were whispers that Diddy might be willing to name names. People from inside the music industry, executives, bodyguards, even celebrities who allegedly helped him or looked the other way. There was talk that he'd flip to protect himself, offer names of people tied to the freak-off parties, people with just as much to lose. It sounded desperate, but it was real. The kind of backroom bargaining that happens when someone powerful is cornered. But here's the thing, the judge and jury didn't go for it, prosecutors didn't either. They didn't want to hear deals, they wanted consequences. They had the evidence, they had the witnesses, and by that point, they had public trust behind them. And that's when it all blew wide open, because someone Diddy trusted stepped up and lit the fuse. Cassie Ventura was one of the most important people in the courtroom. Her role wasn't just emotional. And let's not ignore the detail everyone kept talking about. She showed up to testify 9 months pregnant. That visual alone said more than words ever could. But she wasn't just there for sympathy. She was focused. Her testimony wasn't just a retelling of what happened to her, it was a breakdown of Diddy's entire system. She talked about how he used control, surveillance, and emotional threats. And yes, she described the infamous freak-off rituals, the hotel setups, the baby oil, the roles people were forced to play. She didn't flinch. The jury leaned in. Now rewind to late 2023 when Cassie filed that civil lawsuit. It settled in under 24 hours. People said it was hush money, but now it looks more like a setup, a first move in a much larger plan. According to one insider, that testimony was the real checkmate. The civil case might have opened the door, but her court appearance slammed it shut. Legal analysts say her testimony didn't just support the prosecution, it shifted the energy in the room. From that moment on, Diddy's defense never really recovered, and that changed everything. And if Cassie's testimony opened the vault, wait till you hear who else might have held the key.
So she testified, excuse me, that she was Diddy's ex-assistant. She said he her, her in various ways multiple times. He exacted unbelievable against her, threatened her, one point allegedly threatened to take her phone and use anything on the phone against her.
Here's the part Diddy never saw coming. The people closest to him flipped. We're talking about longtime assistants, old school bodyguards, even road managers. The folks who were once paid to protect him, they're now handing over receipts, subpoenas started flying. Behind the scenes, as early as mid-2023, quiet federal surveillance had already kicked off, with some insiders put under watch without even being told right away. And once the first cracks showed, the stories came pouring out. Several former employees didn't just speak, they were exposed. We're talking about private jet logs, late night footage, security camera wipes, and the so-called prep lists used for his infamous parties. One ex-staffer said they were assigned to make sure the cameras didn't work during certain hours. Another revealed that tapes were labeled, categorized, and locked away in a vault only Diddy and one other person had access to. Even worse, there were mentions of blackmail. Not just people being recorded unknowingly, but those recordings being used as leverage. One former assistant said they found out too late they were being recorded while bringing people into Diddy's homes. If someone talked too much, suddenly a clip would be leaked just enough to remind them to stay quiet. This is the kind of internal collapse no amount of lawyers can stop. Diddy didn't just lose control of the narrative, he lost control of the people who used to cover for him. As one insider put it, he built an empire, but it's crumbling from the inside. Now here's something that really says a lot. No one from Hollywood came to Diddy's defense. Even artists who owe their careers to Diddy stayed far away. Industry insiders say it's fear. For some, it's guilt. Maybe they saw things. Maybe they heard whispers. For others, it's survival. They don't want their names dragged into the fallout, because if Diddy was willing to go down swinging, who knows what names he could have dropped. One executive summed it up perfectly. He's radioactive now.
Guys, it's finally been revealed how Diddy used his baby oil, and it's disgusting. This is Ariel Mitchell Kidd, an attorney who's representing one of Diddy's accusers, and she revealed some graphic details. The accuser was sadly R-worded by Diddy. A friend and the bodyguard invited them to Diddy's home. The attorney alleges that Diddy threatened the person with a knife. The accuser then alleges after being threatened by Diddy, they start to pull out a liquid-like substance from a fanny pack. This thing where the workers at Diddy's homes will all have fanny packs with all types and sorts of things in there that can get people disoriented, and it's really weird.
Now, let's talk about one of the most disturbing parts of this entire case, the baby oil rituals. And no, this isn't gossip. These details came out in court. Multiple witnesses testified about repeated use of baby oil during what they described as initiation acts. These weren't just party tricks, they were part of a pattern, a control tactic designed to humiliate, to dominate, and to break people down psychologically. Victims described being instructed to strip, then drenched in oil and left in uncomfortable, degrading positions. Sometimes in hotel rooms, sometimes in private studio spaces, other times in specially arranged compounds that were allegedly cleared of staff beforehand. One victim said the oil wasn't just for effect, it was symbolic. It made you feel like a thing, not a person, like you were nothing, they said. Another described how the oil was cold, thick, and purposely left unclean for hours as a form of punishment. When federal agents raided Diddy's properties in 2024, they found massive quantities of baby oil, cases of it, hidden behind false panels, stored in back rooms. One location had over 75 bottles, some unopened, some half used, and all logged as evidence. This wasn't some one-time oddity. It was a ritual, something his inner circle allegedly helped set up and clean up over and over again. And if that made you squirm, buckle up, because Diddy's legal problems are far from over.
Her attorney, Doug Wigdor, just sent us the following statement. This entire criminal process started when our client, Cassie Ventura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. And Kira, we should say that's true. The criminal investigation is largely based on the statements in Cassie Ventura's lawsuit, and intensified, of course, once video from the 2016 hotel security camera became public.
Right now, there are over 60 civil lawsuits stacking up against Diddy. And no, these aren't complaints. They're filled with specific, disturbing allegations. And remember Cassie? Even though she settled her own case, her name keeps coming up. Lawyers say she could reemerge, either as a witness for others or simply as the face of a movement that cracked open years of silence. Civil attorneys are on this like sharks in bloody water, because criminal courts might have locked him up, but civil courts, they can go after everything else: the money, the assets, the deals, the reputation. And they don't have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, just a preponderance of the evidence. That's a much lower bar. But here's something you probably didn't consider. Was the jury truly free to decide, or were the scales already tilted? Behind those courtroom doors, there was a storm brewing. Legal analysts said it felt less like a fair trial and more like a public event. The kind where the world's watching. Hashtags trending, protests outside the courthouse, media vans parked 24/7. Even the closing arguments were called overproduced, like Netflix-level drama. And the jury? They were human. Some jurors later admitted feeling emotionally drained. One even said it felt like they were being watched while deliberating. Let's not ignore that kind of pressure. There were posters, public chants, and a whole online army screaming for justice. And whether they admit it or not, jurors feel that. They're not robots. The weight of Diddy's name, his power, and the massive media circus may have shaped the way they saw everything. And here's something even deeper. Some say the jury wasn't just deciding on one man. They were carrying the pressure of decades of alleged abuse, silence, and cover-ups. Like Diddy had become a symbol of something much bigger. And as all this played out under public scrutiny, some wondered, was Diddy even fighting a fair battle? Let's get real. Diddy didn't build this empire alone, and he didn't hide it well either. And if he's going down, how many more are trembling behind closed doors? Do you guys think 160 years was justice or performance? Was this about punishment or precedent? And more importantly, who's next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. See y'all in the next video.